Welcome. My name's Sean. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blink, and I could not be more excited to have each and every one of you here today. The first thing I wanted to say is a huge thank you to every single one of you. The most important people in any early stage startup are the first customers, the innovators, the pioneers, the troublemakers, who take a risk on an unknown company, an unknown product that maybe isn't quite finished yet, in the belief that together we can build something great, something better than has gone before. And I could not be more grateful to each of you for giving your trust and giving it to us at Blink. We would not be here without you. I would not be here without you. So the first thing I wanted to say was that thank you for all of your support, for all of your feedback, and yes, for your trust. It's sometimes hard to believe, or hard for me to believe anyway, that it was just over 2 years ago that we launched Blink. And at that time, we certainly couldn't have imagined what the last 12 months would have brought. The disruption, the heartbreak, personally, but also professionally for many of the frontline workers who use Blink every single day. It's been truly inspiring to see your teams collaborate with our team to try and solve some of the challenges that have presented themselves over the last 12 months. Whether that was moving 24,000 bus drivers from paper payslips to digital payslips in just days, COVID, temperature check micro apps and self-service declarations of fitness to work. We did some record-breaking launches, including to 11,000 people at one NHS trust in just a matter of days. We built integrations with Microsoft Teams and Zoom as they became part of all of our everyday working lives, an unescapable part, it seems. And we were very lucky to welcome some new faces into the Blink community, particularly from the health and care sectors, and we couldn't be prouder to serve those sectors at this time. Inside of Blink, it's been a fairly crazy year too. We've grown the company from just 15 people to 50 people. We now support over 200 customers across 15 countries in over a dozen verticals, from transport to healthcare, facilities management to manufacturing, construction to professional services. As well as London, over the past year we opened offices in Sydney in Australia, in Christchurch in New Zealand, and most recently in North America in New York. And perhaps one of the things we're most pleased about is engagement with the Blink app keeps going up and up and up as well. It's now opened 13 million times a month, 1.5 million messages are sent, and 400,000 feed posts are created. But maybe more telling is the daily and monthly engagement with our app goes up and up as well. The average user now opens the app 11 times a day, and 72% of our active users are active every day, which is an amazing stat, and we hope some metric that might show, hopefully, that people are getting a lot of value from the product. Now, one of our key initiatives over the past 12 months has been to improve the experience for you, both our admins and our internal communicators, who manage the Blink platform every day. I could not be more appreciative of everything you do, but I will be the first to acknowledge that we still have a lot more to do in making the management of the Blink app as easy as it can be. Now, to that end, at the beginning of last summer, we introduced the product panel and the product portal as a way for you to all input into the product roadmap. And I'm really pleased to say that since then, the majority of our roadmap has been decided by and prioritized by you. And one of the things I'd like to say here is if you'd ever like to get a bit more deep into the product, we'll be going through the product portal flow well in a minute. But if you want to get a bit deeper into the product, we'd love to hear from you. Lawrence Carver, our product director, is always available. He'd love to jump on a call with you, understand what you like about the product, what you don't like about the product, where it's serving you well, and maybe where there's opportunities where it can serve you better. Feel free to drop him a line. He's on lawrence@joinblink.com. He will not mind me saying that. He'd love to talk to more of you and get more input and more feedback about what's working and what's not working so well. Now, one of the ways we kind of measure how we're doing in this particular area is NPS. So you would have seen that periodically, about every 4 or 5 months, we ping out an NPS survey and ask how we're doing. And I'm pleased to say that in the most recent survey that we just ran, we saw an increase around 25% with an NPS score, Net Promoter Score, up to 57, And for anyone that's familiar with NPS, that's not bad. That's pretty good. It's not quite at kind of 60 and 70, which is getting up towards world class. So we're not done, and we're certainly not going to stop. We'll never stop. But we're really pleased that we're definitely making progress in making Blink a bit easier to administer and a bit more powerful for internal communicators. Now, on that note, some of the stuff we're currently working on is going to also help in this area. So whether that's skim group sync, which means that if your group and team membership is held somewhere else, maybe Active Directory or your HR platform, we can sync that automatically. We're working on that right now. Bulk changes of users, which I know will take a lot of the laborious day-to-day work out of managing of Blink. Making it easier to set up single sign-on, so you can hook Blink up to more of your applications. And better analytics, so you can see what content's working well and see what's working well on the front line generally. We're working in all of those areas this year, and we'll be sharing a bit more about that later. Okay, the Blink app is really about two things. Firstly, it's about communication. Yes, practical communication in running your business day to day, but also in creating a sense of community with authentic user-generated content and stories so people feel part of something bigger than themselves. The second thing Blink is about, for all of us, is making our daily lives easier. We do this by making it easier to get access to key information that we need via the hub, and also single sign-on into key applications such as rostering, HR and payroll. We really want to empower workers with the information and self-service tools so that they can be more effective at their jobs. Now, these two needs, communication and key information and tools, work hand in hand to create one place that people can go to start their day, to get stuff done, to feel supported and part of your organisation. And throughout this year, we'll be working on enhancements to Blink that build and improve in each of these two areas, some of which we're going to share today. Now, before we do that, I need to say that at the end of this session, we've kept enough time free, hopefully, if I don't rabbit on for too long, for Q&A. So you should see a button at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says Q&A. If you click on that, you can add some questions. So if you want to ask a question of me, or you want to ask a question of anyone from the rest of the team, maybe Gavin, who heads up product and engineering, Flo, who heads up customer success, or Peter, who heads up sales, please drop it into the Q&A. We'd love to hear from you, and we're going to try and answer all of your questions. So thank you again for your support as we build Blink together. I'm now going to hand over to a person and a face that I think many of you will know well, our irrepressible head of sales, Peter Durkin.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. And it's great to be with everyone today. I've really been looking forward to this, to be honest with you. I'm super excited to be here with each and every one of you folks. I'm Peter, and I lead the sales team here at Blink. And I've got to kick off, excuse me, I've got to kick off with an apology, especially for all of those non-rugby and or England fans out there. But I wanted to start today with, well, a piece of history. Piece of history in commandeering Zoom calls, apparently. Let me start that again, shall we, guys? Here we go. It's worth the wait, I promise you that.
Dawson goes through, makes a wonderful break. He's tackled 15 metres from the line. Backs there. Wilkinson will drop for goal. There's offside surely against thing, and no, Martin Johnson has it. He drives. There's 35 seconds to go. This is the one. It's coming back for Johnny Wilkinson. He drops for World Cup glory. Yes! It's up. It's over. He's done it. Johnny Wilkinson is England's hero.
Now then, I promise you that sharing that video had absolutely nothing to do with us being thumped by each one of the home nations in this year's Six Nations, and I'm not living in the past. The point behind showing you that was that Johnny won the match that day with that drop goal, but really England won the World Cup because they had the best team. Now, similarly, when you folks win new contracts, new routes, great CQC ratings, it's not because you've got one superstar, Johnny Wilkinson, in your companies. You win because you've got great teams. Now at Blink, our team has been going through some coaching with Sir Clive Woodward this past quarter, or Clive, as he likes to be called. Only his kids call him Sir Clive. And one of the things that Clive is very clear on is that the teams that win in tech tend to be the teams that win. That is a key part of his mantra. He's big on a lot of other things as well, you know, being sponges, not rocks, having teamship rules, deliberate practice, relentless learning. But one of the things he's very clear on is that the teams that win in tech tend to be the teams that win. And when Clive took over the 2003 World Cup winning squad, one of the first things he did was bring in technology. And at the time, only about 5% of that squad even knew how to use a laptop, but he gave one to everyone. And people rinsed him. The media took him to town. There were pictures all over the tabloids of these big rugby players carrying little laptop bags into team hotels. Now, they slated him. They said, why isn't he giving them more meat or putting scrummaging machines in their gardens? Why on earth is he giving them laptops? Now, this snap I'm about to share with you now is actually from Clive's personal collection. Now, what you can see here is Richard Cockrell, Graham Rowntree, and Darren Garforth on a tour down under. And you basically got three burly front row forwards with their heads buried in laptops. And why was he doing it? Because the teams that win in tech tend to be the teams that win. Now, we're not giving your front row laptops, but we are giving your front line an app. And for the very same reason. The teams that win in tech tend to be the teams that win. Now, in the rugby context, Clive enabled his players with the ProZone platform. That's what they were doing on these laptops, right? To show them how they played, to give them feedback on their positioning, prevent injuries by looking at tackling technique, build awareness effectively about where position can lead to points, so that they could be the best they could be on the pitch. Now, in our world, you folks are enabling your people with Blink, to show them what shifts they're on, to ask for their feedback to make faster decisions, prevent accidents with near-miss reporting, build awareness about critical comms with mandatory reads, so that they too can be the best they can be on your front lines. And one of the most compelling reasons for enabling your front lines on Blink is the fact that you're enabling them with agency and a voice. And as I'm sure all of you will be aware, you now have to be ready for the fact that the best idea could come from anywhere. And funny enough, the same was true in the England rugby squad back in 2003. One of their best ideas, one of the World Cup winning ideas, came from a player. The idea to give England players skin-tight jerseys in 2003 came from Jason Robinson, aka Mr. Twinkletoes. ProZone had showed him that every time he was tackled, he was being pulled down by his shirt. This was particularly true after a Calcutta Cup win against Scotland. That's where skin-tight shirts came from. He wrote a letter to Clive with a proposition for tighter jerseys. Now, similarly, I know that a lot of your front lines have positioned you with ideas of how to intervene when colleagues are feeling suicidal, when to change customer service offerings, or how to improve clinical outcomes in some of the hospitals that Blink is live within. And that's what enabling the frontline means. It's about galvanizing the collective knowledge, the efforts, and the unique genius of your biggest assets, your people. Now, just as Clive was met with fierce opposition from the media and his players, so too you folks are going to be met with resistance from colleagues, from unions, from frontline team members themselves. People don't like change. But just remember, the teams that win in tech tend to be the teams that win. And we're very excited to share some more today about how we can help you continue to win. Enabling your frontline for us isn't about giving you a product, it's about being a partner. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Gavin.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon. I'm Gavin. I'm head of product engineering here at Blink. Now, I'm excited to give an update on some of the features we've added to Blink recently and show off some of the new things that we're currently working on. Now, as Sean mentioned, last year, we really made an effort to get more of your input on what you'd like us to add to Blink. And a lot of the features we prioritized came directly from the feedback we received. I would like to go over 4 of these features in a bit more detail. And the first feature I'd like to talk about is formatting feed posts. We received a lot of feedback on this one. You wanted to make your posts easier to read and make them stand out and make them more engaging, which is why a few months ago, we started work on adding new formatting options to our feed posts. So we've launched this feature at the beginning of this year, and it is now available on iOS, Android, and web. So now when you're in the post box, you can select from a few different paragraph styles, make text bold or italic, and add block quotes and breaks and lists to your feed post. So if you haven't tried that already, please make sure to do so when you write your next feed post. And as always, we will be trying to add extra functionality to this in the future. Now, next up, I'd like to show off open teams. Teams are an important part of how Blink works. By being in the right team, you as a user get access to the right things in Hub and all the updates and conversations that are happening in the feed and in chats. And we see potential for teams to do more and be more flexible, starting with open teams. Now, open teams allow anyone to send feed posts to that team, whether they're a member or not. We believe this feature has a lot of potential, and we've been especially delighted to hear about some of the ways that this is being used. Now, one great example is by one of you who has set up a help desk team using open teams. So anyone faced with an issue can send out a feed post, include images or video that might help explain the problem, and send it off to the help desk team. The issue is then picked up by someone in that team and can be further discussed or resolved through comments on the feed post. And another great example of how this feature is being used that we're very excited to hear about is around employee recognition. And in this particular company, the HR team has set up an open team and invited anyone company-wide to send posts to that team to recognize one of their colleagues. They can then share that recognition with the rest of the company by expanding the audience on that feed post. Or if they want, they could obviously use that to celebrate great work in their monthly all-hands meeting. Now, these are two examples that show how this can be used, and we can't wait to hear more ways of how you are using open teams. It's available now and can be set up by any administrator in your organization. The third feature I like to talk about is around a change that we made to mandatory reads. So over a year ago, we launched Mandatory Reach, which is a tool that allows you to distribute vital information and make sure that it is seen and read by your front line, as well as track who has seen it. And at the end of last year, we brought some additional functionality to this feature. You can now customize the statement and the wording that users have to agree to. And hopefully that will allow even more of you to make use of mandatory reads. So for anyone who wants to use this, next time you're creating a mandatory read, just select edit statement on the right-hand side and either select from a list of previously created statements or create a new one that anyone in your organization can then reuse in future. The fourth and final feature I'd like to zoom in on is our new Zoom integration. Some of us might have never even heard of Zoom over a year ago, and today we wouldn't know how to live without it, or we definitely wouldn't be here because we are on Zoom right now. We've had Microsoft Teams and Google Hangouts as an integration in Blink Chat for a while, making it quick and easy to start a virtual meeting right from inside a Blink Chat. And today we're adding Zoom to that list, allowing you to quickly start a new Zoom meeting using the /Zoom superpower in Blink Chats. If you do use Zoom in your organization, definitely make sure to try that one out. So these features are just a small part of what we've been working on. Our development team is continuously releasing little improvements to the Blink apps, and most of which are driven directly from the feedback we receive from you and your team, including things such as easier navigation in Hub, improved notification settings, dark mode, and coming soon, following and unfollowing feed posts, another very frequent requested feature. Now, next up, I would like to turn to something different. I would like to talk about something big we've been working on for a while behind the scenes, and that is our Microsoft 365 integration. We know many of you use Microsoft 365 in your organization and probably use some of the tools that come with it on a daily basis. And this is why we want to integrate Blink with the Microsoft 365 suite as well as we can. Our Microsoft 365 integration already integrates with your calendar, allows single sign-on into Blink, starting Teams meetings from chat, and automated user management through Skim. Now, one part of the Microsoft 365 we don't integrate with currently is SharePoint. And the reason is that we've been focusing on the Blink Hub as the place where your frontline can go to access the files and folders they need. However, we heard from many of you that you already have your documents and files organized in SharePoint and that you wouldn't want to have to maintain these in two places. If only there was a way to get all these files from SharePoint into the Blink Hub without having the overhead of keeping everything in sync. Well, this is where our new SharePoint integration comes in. giving you a quick and easy way to surface all your files and folders from SharePoint right in the Blink Hub. So no longer does your frontline have to install multiple apps and open multiple apps on their phones, or set up a Microsoft 365 account to get access to the files that you're hosting in your corporate SharePoint. They can now simply access them from the Blink Hub. And I'd love to give a quick demo of how it all works. So as you can see, I've got my Blink desktop open here, and I've got my phone ready as well, and I'll turn to that in a second. Now, before I show you how the SharePoint integration works, I would like to touch on a few points of where we've already got our Microsoft 365 integration. So starting with, obviously, when you're in the feed, you've got your calendar, your Outlook calendar that you can pull in from straight in onto the feed. And then if you move into chats, you've got the meetings integration where you can quickly start a Teams meeting. In directory, you can pull in everyone through Skim from Active Directory. And like Sean said, we're going to be adding groups to that as well soon, so that you can manage your teams through Active Directory and pull in all your groups that you've got set up there. And in Hub, you can add Microsoft Forms already, like this report and absence form that we use internally as well. But now let's add SharePoint to that, and let's add something from SharePoint. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open the Blink admin portal. So I've got the Blink admin portal open. And the first thing you would have to do before using this is someone with a SharePoint admin access would have to go in and set this up for your entire organization. Now, this would only have to be done once. You would go into the integrations tab here on the side, and you would go into the Microsoft 365 integration, and you would then go through a setup flow, which only has to happen once. And once that is done, anyone who's got access to SharePoint can then start adding files and folders from SharePoint into the Blink Hub. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I've got a file here. I've got a folder here, actually, 2021 documents that I like to share with my team. So I'm going to go into the Hub section. And I'm going to go click Add Content and select this new SharePoint option that I've got. Now, this is going to open the Microsoft file and folders picker. And it's going to show all the SharePoint drives that I, as a user, have got access to. So I've got access to the Blink SharePoint side. I'm going to go ahead and open that. I'm going to find the folder that I mentioned, so which is the 2021 documents folder. It's got a few things in there, so I'm going to go select that and get that all synced up to Blink Hub. So I'm going to click open. Now, as usual, when you're sharing files in the Hub, there's a few things you got to select. I got to select which team I would like to share with. I'm going to go and select the all company team, and the section I would like to add it to, I'll add it to content. And if I want, I can share this to feeds, or I could open it in SharePoint to make sure that I've selected the right thing. But for now, I'm just going to go click share and add this to the Hub. So this is going to sync up everything you've got in SharePoint with our Blink Hub, and it'll take a second, but hopefully not too long. And yeah, there you go. So it's all synced up now, and behind the scenes, we'll make sure to keep that all up to date as well. So if you make any changes in SharePoint, that will all be reflected inside of Blink. So yeah, as you can see in the content section, I've now got this 2021 documents, and I've pulled in all the files that you've got here. So let's go ahead. Imagine I'm one of your employees working on the front line. I'm going to go up and open my Blink app on the right here using my mobile phone. Excuse me. So I'm in Blink now, and this is just a feed as you know it. You've got I've got a featured post here at the top from our CEO. I've got a social post where someone's been celebrating a birthday, and I've got an important update from someone that looks familiar, at least. Someone's lost their keys. I'll get to all that later. I see there's a minute to read as well. I should probably attend that, but again, I'm gonna skip that for now. And I'm gonna go into the Hub where I'm gonna try and find these files that have been shared. So it's obviously automatically synced up in the background. There's nothing to do. So I've got my 2021 documents ready here, and I can go open a PowerPoint file. I can open Word files. It will preview most of the common file types, PDF, Excel. So I've got it all available here. And similarly, previously I already had synced up our policies, and these are our Blink policies. So imagine that, again, this is one of these things that you probably have already in SharePoint, and this is our Blink SharePoint and our policies. So we've synced this up through our SharePoint integration, and now we don't have to keep all these files and folders synced in Blink. We can just have them here through SharePoint, and we can manage them all through SharePoint. So there's a few more folders here, so it syncs up the entire folder structure as you would expect, and I can preview them and get them straight from my phone. And similarly, just to prove that I'm not that it only works on mobile, they've also synced up. I've got policies here on my desktop app, and similar, that 21 documents folder is now also synced up, and I can go ahead and preview these PowerPoint files and Excel files and so on. So that is our new SharePoint integration. We will be testing a beta version of this feature first, and are opening registration for that today. If you're interested, we will be in touch with more details later today. The integration will launch in May as a paid add-on, and if you have any questions in the meanwhile, please get in touch with our sales team. Now, next up, I'd like to hand over to Flo to talk a bit more about our product portal. Flo?
Thank you, Gavin. Hello, everybody. My name is Flo, and I'm the head of customer success here at Blink. And today I'm going to be telling you about our Blink product portal. But before I show you, I just want to give you a little bit of a background on this. So as Sean, Peter, and Gavin have already mentioned, we plan, manage, and prioritize our product roadmap based on the insights, wants, and needs that come directly from you, our customers. We rely heavily on your feedback to help us shape and improve the Blink platform to provide the right functionality for you and your entire workforce. So your feedback comes to us in a variety of different ways, but there are typically three main channels. So the first is our Net Promoter Score, and we run this survey a few times a year, and it gives us amazing insight into what's working really well for you and what could be improved on. The second is via direct feedback that comes out of our calls, our meetings, and messages that we share with you. And all of these are logged immediately into our product insights board internally for us to review. The third feedback mechanism is via our Blink product portal, which I'm going to show you now. So some of you have already seen this, hopefully. But for those that haven't, the Blink product portal is where you can see all of the projects, features and ideas that are currently on our product roadmap. So in the under consideration section that you can see here, you can see all of the projects that are candidates for our next stage of roadmap planning. So you have the ability to click on any of these, such as peer-to-peer recognition and kudos, for example. You can find out a little bit more about this idea, about this project. And most importantly, you can tell us and vote on how important this feature would be to you and your organization. So you can tell us whether it's a nice to have, whether it's important, or whether it's absolutely critical to your workforce. So your votes then help us score the importance of each feature, which in turn helps us prioritize our product roadmap. So the next tab in the Blink portal is the Plan tab. So in here, you can see all of the projects that our engineering team are currently working on. So as Gavin already mentioned, you've got the Zoom integration, notification improvements, etc. Then you can also see what's coming up next. So you can sync skim groups, got real-time translation and integration with Box. The third tab is what is in beta phase. So as you can see here, Microsoft 365 SharePoint integration is currently here. And as Gavin mentioned, if you'd like to be involved, if you'd like to find out more about this, do get in touch with us. Then the final tab is the delivered tab. So these are all of the projects that you have asked for that we have already delivered for you and are already available within the Blink environment that you have. So as Gavin mentioned again, open teams, custom mandatory read statements, and so on. The last thing that I'm going to show you today is this submit idea button up in the top right-hand corner. So this allows you to share your thoughts and ideas directly with our product and engineering team. All you need to do is add your idea here. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us how important it is to you. Again, whether it's a nice to have, whether it's important, or whether it's absolutely critical to your organization. And then add in an email address so that we can get back to you and we can update you on your request. So our product portal is available anytime and is updated every time there is a change from our side. So you can add your votes and ideas whenever you want to, whenever you have a spare minute. And this is the place where you can stay up to date and see what we're working on from our side. So I hope that all makes sense. We will be sending you a link to the product portal this week, so you can find out more, cast your votes and share your ideas. That's it from me. Back to Peter.
Thanks, Flo. And I would now like to welcome a very special guest to this exclusive program with around 6,000 frontline staff on Blink and a weekly active user rate of over 90%. He's certainly one of the most innovative and forward-thinking CTOs I've had the pleasure of working with. So I'd like to welcome to this virtual stage, Mr. Eric Eigenhausen. Welcome, Eric.
Hello, everybody. God, that's quite an introduction there, Peter. Thank you very much. I'll pay you later, yeah?
Not at all. Listen, Eric, I know you very well. We've got over 100 people out there listening in today. Why don't we start with an introduction? Can you just introduce a bit about yourself and Metroline CDC as a company?
Sure. I'm Eric Eigenhausen, the Group Technology Director for ComfortDelGro UK, with our biggest brand being Metroline, the red buses in London, and a number of other coach and bus companies within the UK itself. We're part of a bigger group, ComfortDelGro, in Singapore, and my background has been in software development mostly. And 3.5 years ago, I moved to ComfortDelGro, mostly in the taxi side and then the bus side, but now purely focused on the bus side, mostly in London.
Top stuff. Thank you, Eric. And now I'm gonna ask you to dredge your memory banks now, back to February 2019, which is when you and I first met.
Yeah.
How would you characterize the real problem that you were trying to address at Metroline?
Right. So as a transport company, and certainly a public transport company in London, we were relatively a traditional company. We still are. A lot of things happen by paper. A lot of things happen by clipboards in the output of the bus garages and what have you. And it's always been quite difficult to reach out directly to the drivers, having direct communication with them. Everything goes by letters or by posters. And it's all a bit, we can have email for all the drivers, but that's costly. And is it really worth it? So we tried to use the modern technology, the apps, and see if we can make that work. So I looked around to different solutions, and that's the problem we tried to resolve. How do we communicate with the drivers? How do we give a number of the operational systems that they have to use as part of their job? How do we give access to them easier than they currently have? So that was the mission, and to enable them to also communicate back to us, which was much harder. Everything was by form. If the driver wants to request something, he has to go to the output and fill in a piece of paper that then will go into the workflow mill inside the garage itself. So also to hear their voices much more directly than we were able to do before. And
then I just to use a kind of horrible podcast terminology, let's then double click on that for a second, Eric. And when you're thinking about the experience as was for your frontline, how are they really feeling the impact of that situation? We'll come on to the comms piece in a second, but how was that challenge around manual processes and lack of feedback really kind of manifesting itself?
So not necessarily saying lack of feedback. It was a little bit more difficult because everything goes by paper. I think there was interaction in the garages, so the drivers could talk to the staff there, of course. But when they had a problem or whatever, it needs to go by traditional means like phones or paper. So the impact for all the people involved is much easier to communicate now that I have a channel to do it. And again, we could have gone with a traditional email, but this is a much more interactive, more natural way of working. Certainly with the instant messaging that we have, the drivers interact a lot with the allocators in the garage if there are problems. And that's quite a revolution. That made it much easier for everybody involved. That's really the change.
And when we think about the last 12 months in particular, which we don't need to dwell on at all, but is there a particular area that you can pinpoint that you think Blink has had the biggest impact, if you like, within Metroline?
Well, it's by far the communication ability. When things change, we could communicate it to all the staff almost instantly. Clearly, we can't control if they look at it or not, but at least we can communicate it to them. Anything that happens, decisions that need to be made, giving feedback on what's happening in the garages, what kind of things we undertook to make garages safer to the best of our abilities. So it has been essential, and it has really changed the way we operate. But certainly over the past 12 months, it has been very, very helpful in communication, mainly to all the staff.
Understood. I mean, obviously, like a communication channel is only as reliable as it is the number of people using it, right? But by definition,
that's it. And you know, it's but again, it is the instant communication that we're now able to do. If people not in the output, or they go home, they're on the way home, they can see if anything changes. They can be informed things that are happening, good or bad. So that's good.
Let's move on from communication from just a second. I'm interested from your perspective as a technologist, right? Whenever you're introducing platforms like this, I guess you've got two kind of quite natural choices. You can either choose to build something for yourself or buy an off-the-shelf solution. So just talk us through your decision-making process as was a couple of years ago. Why did you choose to buy?
So because I came from the software development background, bespoke is always more exciting because you can build something and it's you can make it exactly how you want it. But I'm also aware of the downsides of bespoke development. Because I was on the other side, I loved bespoke development because there was a cash cow on the other side of it, because you can support and changes and it's an ongoing investment. We can do it if we want to, but we looked at it initially. We worked with our group IT team in Singapore, because they had developed something internally, and we seriously thought we're going to use that, we're going to adapt it. But the amount of integration, bespoke integrations they have made to their operational systems was such that we couldn't really take it over without investing a lot ourselves. So that's why we went to see if there was off-the-shelf products available, and that's how we got started talking to you. You know, that you were one of the earliest platforms that were out there and seemed to tick all the boxes that we wanted to have ticked. So that's the decision. So yes, of course, there's ongoing investment in the way you're subscribing, we subscribe to you, but it is not the same. We learn now from all the other people that are on your platform and all the changes that they introduce, we benefit from, and that's of course the beauty of subscription model.
Definitely. I mean, I think you say that. I think that you know, there's the opportunity potentially for some people to learn about your journey on this call, and I will ask you in a second about the kind of IT roadmap that you have, if you like, looking forward, but also some of the things that you've introduced on Blink at Metroline to date. Before we get to that, though, I guess, you know, probably holding on to a tenuous link back to Sir Clive. I'm sure you very much enjoyed that rugby analogy, Eric.
I never had the pleasure of meeting him, but he sounds like a good guy.
With any kind of transformation like this, right, there's always going to be significant hurdles to overcome or challenges to overcome. And you really have, we've seen this over the last 24, 48 months, been a real pioneer of wholesale digital transformation at Metroline. What do you think have been some of the harder moments for you on this journey, going from an organization of 6,000 people relying principally on paper for process and communications to a software-defined frontline relying on Blink?
So just maybe take a step back on what I try to achieve, and not just me. It's just not just me doing this. Of course, a team behind me that helped me with this, and yourselves. Because not everybody is tech savvy, not everybody understands apps and how it all hangs together. When we introduce technology, certainly to people that might not necessarily understand it or want to work with it, we need to make it as easy as possible. Single sign-on is essential to anything you do, in my opinion. Once you're on Blink, for example, or any other platform, if I now need to go to other tools to do parts of my work, that needs to be seamless and transparent. So because we work with a variety of different tools, like a Trapeze, which is our allocation system, like Green Road, which is our driver behavior and tracking system, and other systems. I want drivers to go, or operational staff to go into one platform and be able to go everything seamlessly without having to think, oh, now I have to open this app, or now I have to open this website. And this is what Blink brought, I thought, certainly from an off-the-shelf perspective, the hub integration piece, where you can really just start slotting things into it and making people believe it's all one system. So when we introduce Green Road, or when we're going to introduce an incident reporting system, we're telling it's just another part of Blink. We don't have to say what system it is, because it's not necessarily relevant for people that are actively using it. I think that was very, very important to me, and to make that simple for people to access, simple for people to see it.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I guess there's similarities, with all due respect to you, Gavin. Love what you've shown there in terms of the SharePoint integration and so on. But if I'm a frontline worker, I don't really care where that information is hosted. I just care that I've got access to it, right? And I guess the same is true with some of those systems you're talking about. The frontline identifying Blink as a digital passport into those third-party systems. They're not really too fussed about the underlying technology or provider behind those third parties. They want one place to go to access everything they could conceivably need.
That's right.
Okay, all right. I've got one eye on the time, Eric. I've probably got two more questions for you. Like from your perspective, right? It's interesting to know about some of the systems you've integrated thus far, and where you started from 2 years ago. But I know you're not done yet. So can you share a little bit more about your IT roadmap at Metroline as it pertains to Blink?
I hope that the competition was not listening. But no. So certainly the idea would be to increase making life easier for the people both that drive our buses and the people that work in the garages. So introduction of automation of paperwork, like driver defect reporting, like walk around checks, like mileage and log cards and things like this. All of that needs to be done and needs to be added, all integrated into Blink. The challenge we need to overcome is that we still rely on people using their mobile phones and don't want to say you have to. So how can we make it so people have it, and we know that the people are using this? So either introduce other technology or other platforms or other devices, or sort out another way that the people that we know that they are using the platform rather than making voluntary. So, but it is the continuation of the integration of different systems into Blink. That's definitely what the plan is, and other systems.
Understood, and it's great to hear that, and obviously that's very much aligned with where we're taking things. There'll be an event like this very soon, I'm sure, where we're talking about how to make those types of things much easier for you from a self-service point of view. Our ambition at Blink absolutely is to create an environment that not only gives people access to two-way communication, to allow them to create content and feel part of something bigger than themselves, but is tied to their operational day-to-day and brokers access to those enterprise systems they need at the same time. So
the key thing, Peter, is what I forgot to say. The key thing is the drive to paperless garages and paperless operation, and that I think Blink is critical in that path for me. That's the key thing.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Listen, Eric, I'm going to give you an opportunity here in front of Gavin, and actually, not just Gavin, but representing our whole product team across web, desktop, and the mobile apps. What more would you like to see from our product teams in 2021?
So you did put me on the spot a bit, because I should have checked all the things that are on there at the moment. One of the things, because that's something we worked on, and please forgive me if it's already there, because that would be very embarrassing. Please don't tell me now. More informed development and workflow on the forms. So we have a bunch of forms that we now use that were made for us in micro apps, but they still go to email. So if we can tie in that whole workflow when forms are being created and get managed by the operational staff, that would really open up what you can do with Blink. And I appreciate that this SharePoint integration, there's other integrations that will facilitate that kind of going. But if that would be native in Blink, I think that would be incredibly powerful. I know it's a different direction, but
no, you raise an interesting point, which we're not going to have too much time to go into on this session now. But with everything we do, we're always looking about whether we should sort of create that function natively in the application ourselves, or look at some of those third-party providers out there, your Microsoft Forms, your Mintexes, your, these form providers in and of themselves, and think, are we better to build, or are we better to kind of partner and almost allow for the pre-positioning of those types of workflow tools in the application? And it's something we're always weighing up. We've definitely talked about this as a team before, and interesting to hear about the value that could have for Metroline. So yes, we will continue that conversation.
Okay.
Thank you for all those honest reflections, Eric. I hope that people listening in found some of those things useful. I know I certainly did. I would like to go back now to Sean in the studio.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Eric, for being here today, of course, but maybe more importantly, thank you for all the support you've given us over the last 2 years, and in particular for inspiring us to be more ambitious in addressing more of the daily needs of frontline workers. It really does inspire us. Thank you. Now, in a minute, as I said, we'll be opening up to Q&A, so please go ahead if you haven't already used the Q&A button. I see there's 14 questions there already, so if we don't get around to all of them, we will follow up with answers. So please do throw them in there right now. But before we do that, I just want to say a quick thank you to all of the team at Blink who work tirelessly behind the scenes on all of these new features and on making Blink what it is. One of the things I've got to say is, having played with that Microsoft 365 integration, it's just magical. It's so slick, it's delightful to use, it's frictionless. I mean, the quality of the engineering behind the scenes is just sublime. And what's great about the way it's been architected is it's really foundational to a whole bunch of stuff that can come after, whether that's integration with other content platforms like Box, or even opening up the API to allow you to manage content in the Blink Hub through an API. We're really just laying the foundations for so much that can come. And I guess that's one of the things I wanted to say, that like what really excites us at Blink is that everything we're doing now is really we just see it as foundational. We see so much opportunity for innovation in making the lives of workers easier that we really are just getting started. So thank you again, our community and our customers. We could not have gotten this far without you, and I really could not be more excited to have you with us on this journey. If you've seen anything today that interests you, if you've got any questions, get in touch through all the usual channels. Maybe the easiest is support@joinblink.com. Drop a note directly to your customer success manager. You can drop me a note at sean@joinblink.com, SEAN. Love to hear from you. If you want to get on the M365 SharePoint beta, we'd love to have you on there. If you want to join the product panel, we'd love to hear your insights and have you help us shape the product and shape the roadmap. Please do check out the product portal. As Flo said, we'll follow up with an email with a link to that and a summary of everything else we've discussed today. And if you're not already, please do connect with us and follow us on LinkedIn. We try and share a lot of content on there, be it educational or maybe some of it a bit more playful. But we'd also love to learn more about your organisations through that community as well. So please do connect with us on LinkedIn. Cool. Blink was inspired by a single idea, that a company's greatest untapped asset is its frontline workers. Our goal is simply to use frictionless technology to put your workers at the heart of your organisation, by giving them a voice, by creating a greater sense of community and belonging, and crucially, by making everyone's daily lives easier. Now, as we continue this journey, we're going to be doing far more of these events, and we really see this as a partnership with each and every one of you. We're going to do these events quarterly, so there'll be another one in June and another one in September, where we'll be sharing and releasing the features we've been working on, some of which we talked about today, like Blink Identity and Skim Group Sync, and some we didn't, like real-time translation and lots of other surprises. We also want to expand these events to include more customer stories and more guest speakers, make them a bit more useful. So really looking forward to seeing all of you at these events. So, without further ado, Peter, do we have our first question?
Yeah, we do. I'm just going to have to think about how to group these in a semi-intelligent way to make it not so scattergun. So we've got a few, maybe three, which I'm going to start Gavin off on. They are all around the SharePoint integration. First up from Marie. Hey, Marie. It'd be great if I could see you and say hello, but that's not the way these things work. But hope you're well too. I love a question that starts with that. Gavin, Marie wants to know whether there is potential for review date and version control to be added to hub content. I'm going to give you three here, Gavin. So that's the first of three. Second one is around how often SharePoint files sync with the Blink Hub. And thirdly, Sarah Callahan would like to know whether you need an Office 365 license to access content that's stored on SharePoint. Not all of their staff have an Office 365 license, so will they be able to access that content on SharePoint? So three-part question there. Version controlling on hub content, how often SharePoint files sync, and whether people need 365 licenses to access SharePoint content.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. It's a good thing I had a pen laying here by accident, because I was not ready to get like a machine gun of questions like that. But so on the first question around review, so yeah, it is possible, and it's also a request that we've had just in Hub and in Pages as well around reviewing content and workflow. So we're aware that these are features that some people will need, and we want to bring them. So it will come at some point, but I'm not going to make any promises on this call as to when that will be. Now, it would be great, though. What I will say is, if there's any insight, so the product portal that Flo has shown is the best way of giving us any information on how you would like these things to work. So if you could go on there and leave a note there, or just send an email, as Sean said, because we would love to know how you would want these things to work and what exactly it is that you want to get from all these things. So yeah, the answer is the democratic. It'll come at some point. We're aware of it. We've got it tracked. But yeah, it probably won't be the next few months, but maybe after. On your second question, Pete, so how often do the files sync? Was that it?
That is it, yeah.
Yeah, so syncing wise, these files, they're always kept in sync is the short answer. So it's not like you have to do anything manually. We're going to keep everything in sync for you. So once you've connected up a folder into the Blink Hub, then behind the scenes, if there is a change, we're going to pull that change in. And the same, if your file changes, we'll pull the file change in as well. So that should all happen instantly normally. And on to your third question, which was around Microsoft 365 licenses. So it's a bit of there's two answers to this question, really. So if you are a team administrator or a organization admin or a content admin that is managing the hub, you do need a Microsoft 365 license to be able to set this up. So you need access to SharePoint to select a folder or a file in there that can then get synced up to the Blink Hub. But once that is done, if you are just a frontline employee coming in through your Blink app, you don't need to set up a Microsoft 365 account to be able to get access to those files. So you can read and view and preview all those files and folders without having to do that.
That was fantastic, Gavin. You know, it was so good. I'm going to give you 3 more questions to think about whilst I maybe try and put Sean on the spot with a question in a minute. So really interesting questions coming in from John Blaschke, Ricky Sycamore, and Andrew Hines, all around a similar kind of topic, which not wishing to solutionize, which I sometimes get lambasted for doing, but it's kind of around, should we say, presence, availability, and maybe giving some more context around things like out of office or being unavailable on the Blink platform. So Gavin, I'll encourage you to think about this for a couple of minutes. You know, Ricky's asking whether there are any plans to integrate out of office from emails into the chat feature. And John Blaschke's asking a similar question, you know, would we be able to synchronize with Outlook 365, Microsoft 365 to view availability in the chat feature? And Andrew, as we've spoken about before, definitely wants to know, is there any progress on the way we're thinking about presence at Blink? So 3 similar questions there. I'll give you a minute on those, Gavin. But I'll come to Sean, maybe to put him on the spot, who knows. Sean, an anonymous attendee would like to know, what are you most excited about over the next year?
Ooh, tough one. So much stuff going on. From a product point of view, I'd probably say, firstly, integrating Blink with more of the systems that everyone uses every day, so we can take more and more friction out of people's daily lives. You know, if everything can just be one click away, that's kind of a great starting point. So we're definitely going to be building a lot of those out. The second one is probably around data, so using data better. So this could be like analytics around content, surfacing the best content that's getting traction or the best stories, And then that kind of leads into quite an ambitious feature we have in our roadmap for later this year, early next year, around frontline intelligence. So why are people leaving the organisation? What makes people happy? Employee NPS surveys, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really excited about how we're going to be using data a bit more across the platform.
Nice, very cool. Gavin, I'll give you a minute longer because there's a few in here which I think, Flo, we should bring you to the party on. So there are a couple of questions here around product portal. Can we give our colleagues access to product portal? Number one. What if I can't see a feature request that I think is really important? Number two. Let's get you going on those, and then I'll try and rationalize what's remaining here.
Sure. So yes, absolutely. Please do share the product portal with everybody and anybody across your organization. The more votes, the more ideas, the more feedback that we have, the better and easier it is to prioritize our product roadmap and make sure we're doing the right things. And secondly, what was the second question, Peter? Excuse me.
You need one of Gavin's pens, Flo. That's
I do. I've actually got a pen in my hand.
What if I can't see a feature request that I think is really important?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If it's super important, of course, you can submit your idea through the product portal, or please do reach out to us, the customer success team or the customer support team, whenever with your ideas, and we can pass them straight on to the product and engineering team.
Thank you, Flo. So Gavin, you've had enough time to think. This may have, I've just looked at the clock, team. This may have to be the last question. We have got obviously all of the names of the individuals, apart from one anonymous attendee who have asked questions. We will absolutely be getting back in touch with everyone who's asked a question to make sure that you haven't missed anything. So Stephen, Andrew, Graham, Silvio, Victoria, these questions are not in vain. Thank you for sharing them with us. We have just run out of time. But Gavin, keen to get some of your thoughts around what we were discussing earlier in terms of out of office presence and so on before we close.
Yeah, so presence, availability, out of office, they're all a bit related. I think the first thing I'll say is, I mean, I would love to have this myself, because it's not the, it would, you know, it does happen where I'm on holiday and people don't know because I don't have this on Blink anywhere, so people will just message me. So if that helps, I would love to have this myself. I might, you know, just build it myself just to get that. But I mean, really for this one, we do need to obviously make sure we get this right. Some people are quite sensitive as well about knowing what people are up to or what their status is. So we have been thinking about this, and we've got a few ideas in the pipeline of how we could tackle this. So it is, and we're also very aware that a lot of people have asked for this, and it's actually I think one of the most asked for things. So we're aware of it. We're working on it. We're trying to come up with sort of a good way, and I think we'll probably come out with something that is sort of like a first version of this that will allow you to set some sort of status on you as a user. But I'm not going to make like promises on this call of how it's going to work. But yeah, it's top of our list in terms of often requested feed. And I think in the next year we'll be giving an update on this one at some point, probably in a later event.
Top stuff. Thanks, Gavin.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. It's fantastic. Thank you, everyone. It's been fantastic to see you all here. Thank you to everyone who asked the question. I hope to see you at the next one of these that we do. And frankly, what I really hope is that we can see each other face to face again very soon.